interview process is a two-way street. So if you're going in an interview only to speak and not listen, you're missing the point. Eye contact, very important. If you're not comfortable doing it, I would say practice. Identify your purpose and then work towards it. And in order to work towards it, you will have to have certain processes in your life that you'll have to change. You will have to have a very maniacal approach to your own performance. And if you're not, performing, I have to be honest with you, life's not charity. You're not going to see results.
Hello and welcome to this episode of OysterLink's podcast. Mr. Dadich, could you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Chintan Dadhich. I'm the current general manager for the Conrad New York downtown here in New York City. I have been a hospitality leader for over 2 decades with experience in various markets. Such as Boston, Palm Springs, Phoenix, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Las Vegas are some of those markets. I started my journey in India, where I was born and raised, and did my hotel school. Also worked for brands such as Le Méridien and Oberoi Hotels before coming to the U.S. That's a little bit about my professional life. Personally, father of 2 kids. I live here now in New York for just over 2 years. My wife is a professional in the sustainability industry, and we've made New York our home for the past few years.
That's very nice. Thank you for the introduction. Did anyone ever tell you that you have a very Balkan last name?
What is that?
Did anyone ever tell you that you have a Balkan last name? So I'm from the Balkan area, and our last names sound exactly like your last name. So I was a little bit...
Oh my God. I've actually never heard that before, but it is actually a very traditional Brahmin last name from India. That is very surprising.
Yeah.
I'll have to do a little bit more research on that.
Yeah, that's what I did. But for us, it's just not a matter of CH, it's CH, which is typical for the Slavic, but Dadich is a super famous last name in Bosnia. So,
oh, wow. I did not know that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So thank you for the introduction. So let's go back to basics, as I like to say it. How did you end up, in a hospitality school? And how did you know that that's your calling? That's what you want to be in life?
Sure. I think my calling started because I was exposed to the food and beverage world through my aunt, who actually had a restaurant in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I remember coming to the U.S. for one of my summer holidays and spending time with her. Back then, one of my passions used to be, taking the small sailboats on the water. And my aunt was, nice enough to pay for my membership for those 3 months to go in and do some sailing. But in return, her ask was that I help her in the restaurant in the nighttime, and just bussing tables or doing side work. I got exposed to the restaurant world, and that led to my love for serving people. I think first and foremost. I think second part of that is having my father be a decorated army officer in the Indian Army at that time, and seeing how he dealt with people from a leadership perspective, I think made a big mark on who I am today. And treating people the way I want to be treated, that concept. I didn't learn it in a book, but I learned it from my father and stuck to it, pretty much throughout my career.
Well, that's a very nice thing to say, especially the moment where you treat people like you want to be treated. It's something that I like doing as well, but I've seen a lot of people not being able to pull off.
Right. It's harder than you say it. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So how important was hospitality school for someone who has now over 2 decades in leadership? I know that there is this dispute in the young, should I go to school or should I just start working? What would you say, what is more important, school or the real life experience?
Absolutely. I think, without having a educational foundation to any career, it's not just hospitality. I think any career, without having the educational foundation, you are leaving things to luck, I must say, right? And from that point on, you're saying, okay, well, if I do great, because I pick up things, at a faster pace than others, I might be able to move ahead. But I think having an education lays the foundation work for you and almost guarantees that, at least from a concept perspective, at least from the information and the education perspective, you will have all the tools that you need to be successful. Obviously, from that point on, it is your responsibility to act upon them, to use them on a daily basis, and conduct yourself in a way where you become a worthy leader. But I think education is probably the most important, building block towards a successful career in the future. So my personal advice would, if you can, definitely invest the time and money to go to a professional hotel school or culinary school, wherever your passion may lie, and also be open to the fact that there's a chance when you get in there, you might change your likes and dislikes about a particular portion of that industry. You're going in thinking, I'm going to be a food and beverage professional, and by the time you finish, you realize you could be an excellent sales and marketing professional in this industry. So be open to that. I think that's people often make that mistake of boxing themselves in one area.
Wow, that's so nice. Thank you. So what would you say would be a good way, or what is some of your ways that you use to kind of attract the younger generations to the hospitality industry? Because there's been a lot of discussions that, Gen Z doesn't want to work in hospitality because it's hard work. They just come in and they quit after one day. So do you have some techniques or tips for employers and hiring managers how to attract these younger people?
I think that is a misnomer that the Gen Z or the millennials do not want to work in the industry or are not hardworking. I find that absolutely wrong. I think I think what we have to do is probably find a better way to communicate with them, because there's a disconnect and what the priorities have been in the industry in the past and how we've led the industry in the past versus where the industry is moving in the future. What I mean by that is it's not a change in what the guest expectations are, right? So guest is still expecting a certain level of product and service when they're coming into our businesses, and certainly millennials and Gen Z are fully immersed in these experiences, because growing up they've actually had the chance to either be exposed to that or in some way, shape, or form have had opportunity to travel and experience it themselves, more than the generations previous to them, I think. So I think, if anything, they're very well equipped to do so. But I think their priorities are a little bit different than the old school hotel approach, where you have to work in a certain position for a number of years before you can move forward. You have to have X number of years before you can get promoted, and your titles and how you're paid and the flexibility of work. I think all these items play into the newer generation's decision making on what they want to do with their life. Well, I also can tell you, if you're working for a financial firm that doesn't believe in a work-life balance, I'm pretty positive that you're going to have a worse work-life balance than you would in a hotel industry, where we've actually seen this evolve over the years. I remember when I first joined the industry 25 years back, it was expected that you were the first one there in the morning and you were the last one to leave at night, because That's what was considered a successful leadership quality. It is no longer so. I don't spend that amount of time, in the office because I've learned that over the years, or even with this new generation, I have to let them make their own decisions. I have to make sure that I'm empowering the team and the leadership that is working with me to make their decisions and run a successful operation or a department. And should they, get into a situation where they need assistance, and this is probably the most important part, that I'm accessible to them. The accessibility is not somebody face to face standing in front of you, micromanaging you. It's the opposite, where the flexibility lies on the team member, the supervisors, the managers, to be able to reach to a general manager or to an executive committee member and say, I am stuck and I'd like your help, and get the assistance they need. So I think it's different an approach rather than the ability to do the job.
Oh, that's great. Maybe this will settle the dispute once forever.
I hope so.
Okay, so you touched briefly upon timelines. So I've heard that a lot coming from people. Oh, I just finished my school and I hope I'm going to become a manager right after the school. So what is a realistic timeline, you would say, in a hotel setting to get to a management position?
I think so. There's a couple of things here. I think there's a desire. If you have a desire to be a manager, then sure, you can work towards that desire. And there are certain team members who are not interested in managing other people, and they would rather manage a task or a certain role and be expert in that particular field. So I think it depends on what your personal desire is. If you are looking to be a manager, well, it has to be, it is a competitive world. Not, a hotel is not made of 300 general managers, right? There's one general manager. There's one manager for maybe 25, 30 team members, or whatever the size of the department is. So in order to get to that position, it is extremely important. Like I said before, you have to have the building blocks in order to get you there. It starts with great education. The next very important building block is experience. And the experience doesn't have to be 10, 15 years, right? You can actually show your worth or your ability to lead other people through your current job role or the job role you are getting into. So for example, if you're going to work in a restaurant or at a front desk and you are taking on a role of a service professional in that team, your ability to be a leader is not shown by you becoming a manager, but what qualities do you have on a daily basis that gives somebody the confidence to give you that position of leadership or supervisor. And some of those qualities I feel that you need are having the ability to interact with each other from a point of empathy and sympathy, rather than always or assuming that you're the subject matter expert, right? So if you're starting your conversation every single time from a platform of empathy and putting yourself in other shoes and trying to understand that conversation from their point of view, that will always be more successful than you trying to have a conversation as a transaction where I tell you what to do or you tell me what to do and we move on. I think if you cut the transaction part out and have meaningful dialogue, that's what prepares you to be a better leader. Once you've done that over a period of time, you are now learning multiple skill sets, such as reading body language, understanding how people react to stress level, how people react to recognition, how people react to stressful situations and deal with them, and how can you be a catalyst in easing some of that pressure. So I think once you've done that over a period of time, and sometimes that's 6 months, sometimes that's a year, sometimes it could be a little bit longer, that's what sets you up as a future leader. So that's my kind of approach to leadership is, if people around you don't gravitate to you out of respect and out of almost an attraction to be with you, then you're not setting yourself up as a leader. And you don't have to be a good looking person to be attractive to other people, right? The attractiveness is that I want to spend more time with this person because I feel good about myself when I'm with them, right? And that's a great quality for a leader.
That was deep on so many levels. Thank you. So what are some of the qualities that a candidate can put on their CV and present during an interview to land a job in Conrad Hotels or working with you or within your team?
Sure. So I think, if you're starting off your career, then I think the number one, and I say this to my team all the time, is you have to have the ability to make decisions, number one, right? So decision making becomes extremely important in our industry because in every single day interactions with each other or with our guests, our clients, we are collecting a lot of information about people's lives. And through interactions, through pre-arrival emails or interactions we've had over telephone with them at the time of their reservations or whatever the case may be, we're collecting a lot of this information about our customers, about our team members. If we're not acting upon them and making decisions to act upon them, then we're leaving a lot of these opportunities on the table. So, for example, if you are booking a reservation at our hotel and we find out that you're there for a special occasion, you're there to drop your child to university or college, or your first time to New York, or this is your 10th anniversary, or this is your 60th birthday, or whatever the case may be. But if you have that information and you're not acting upon it, then you're not making decisions on a daily basis, and you're leaving that opportunity to surprise and delight this customer, this team member, right? So that's number one, make decisions. Number two is all of your decisions have to be customer focused and a work environment focused. So when I make decisions every single day, I try and make my decisions based on two filters. The first one is this the right thing to do for our customers? Yes or no? If it's a no, chances are I'm not going to do it, right? And the second decision is, does this fall through the filter of, is it the right thing to do for our team members, right? Does this create a positive work environment? And if it doesn't, chances are I'm not going to execute on it. So once you make a decision that's past those two filters, I'm almost positive that that decision will always be, beneficial to you from a commercial standpoint, from a profitability standpoint, and from a longevity of your business standpoint, because you are going to make ethical and moral decisions that will set your business up for future. So that's kind of the two things that are that I feel are non-negotiable for me, right? If you cannot make decisions and you cannot understand the importance of making the right decisions for our customers and team members, then you might not be the right fit for the industry or for this hotel. So those are two things. Apart from that, I think some of the qualities that people should have is great listening. And this is one of the things where I feel people, don't invest a lot, is the ability to sit quietly and listen to the other person rather than try and complete their sentences for them or have an opinion about the statement they just heard without actually processing it in their mind, and the ability to have a pause in the conversation, process, and then speak. I think if you're able to do those three things, chances are I'm most probably going to have you on my team if you're applying for a position. Yeah.
Okay, so based on what you have said, what is your favorite interview question?
So some of the questions, I don't think I have one, but I think it is similar to actually what you started with me as, right? Where you said, could you please introduce yourself? I usually ask the question of, can you please walk me through your journey and what led or what are the circumstances that led up to this situation where you and I are talking, right? So usually people will either give me just their professional history or just their personal history, but great storytellers will be able to weave both of them in and tell me who they are as a person. What has really impacted their childhood or their young adulthood, and why are they considering being in this situation, interviewing for this position. So I think that storytelling is important because that tells me that you've actually put in thought process behind this rather than just applying for a position and being there because you've got to be there.
I'm just gonna say, and then I'll let you continue. You killed the storytelling because you had me drawn in immediately.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind. You're very kind. Some of the other questions that I really like to ask are, what drives you? What's the one thing that makes you get up in the morning and say, I'm happy to go to work, or I'm happy to go to my business, whatever the case may be, right? Or I'm happy to go to school. What drives you? There's always an underlying reason what drives you. And then on the flip side, what drains you? And the reasons why I ask that question is because then it tells me, should this person become a part of my team, I know how I can leverage that with them and make sure that I'm providing an environment to them where they are able to drive their passion rather than me creating a situation where I'm draining their passion and they're no longer interested to work in this organization.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Now let me ask you about cover letters. Are they still a thing? And if so, how important are they?
I think depending on the organization, honestly, I think there are certain organizations that still believe in it. There are certain organizations that don't. I personally always have a cover letter ready for myself. I've also been very fortunate that I've worked for the same company now for 21 years. So I haven't had I haven't had kind of the use for it, so to speak, in order to send a cover letter to somebody. But I can tell you that I have one ready today, right? Where should there be a need, should I be interested in a position for the future where I need to send a cover letter, that I have that template ready. And to me, a cover letter is the written version of that first question I asked you, right? Where, who are you as a person? I want to know within 2 paragraphs that who are you as a person and why are you applying for this position? So the cover letter basically creates that curiosity for the employer in wanting to meet with you, right? I can look at 100 resumes and say, oh, I like this resume, or I don't like this resume, or there's spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes or whatever. That's, if you take all that noise out, right? The reason why we meet somebody or we shortlist somebody for an interview is because there's a curiosity about that person. We want to know who this person is. We feel like there's a connection there somewhere. And what better way to be able to write that in your own words and create that curiosity than a cover letter. So I would definitely suggest to have one. And depending on, if the organization requires it or not, I would try and get in front of the hiring manager as quickly in the process as you can.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So when speaking still about interviews, what are some red flags that candidates can unintentionally do or present that you would be like, oh no, I don't want this person anywhere close to my team?
I think, some of the red flags for me are coming in late is, I think, just is disrespectful to other people's time, especially in a day and age when we're moving, so fast in our lives for everything that we do. So, a train being late or a flat tire, these are all valid excuses, by the way. But I think I'm expecting that somebody who's coming is anticipating that and preparing for that. Now, There are emergencies that'll happen sometimes. In that case, having the confidence to postpone the interview and or call in advance and say, I am not feeling 100% today because of XYZ reason, because I've had a cold, or I've just got out of an infection, or my child is sick, or my spouse has been sick for the past 2 days, and it's been I haven't been able to prepare for this. May I please ask for another time? Absolutely okay to do that. But I think that transparency is extremely important. And I can also tell you, when you're making an excuse versus actually, stating what's happened to you, people will know, right? The authenticity in your voice, in your message, is extremely important. So that's one thing. I think tardiness is a no for me. Second thing would be during the interview. Again, going back to not being a good listener, because the interview process is a two-way street. So if you're going in an interview only to speak and not listen, you're missing the point, right? Because every single question, every single cue you can get in that conversation is very important on how you will articulate your answer. So if you're fiddling with your phone or your resume, or you're more interested in looking at the background of the person versus at the person, I think that's very distracting to me and shows me that you're not intentional about your conversation. Eye contact, very important, right? It could be very uncomfortable for some people to have eye contact during a conversation, but the eye contact only tells me that you're interested in listening to me. You're interested in my reactions to what you're speaking. And if you're not comfortable doing it, I would say practice with a friend, practice with a spouse, your family member, whoever it is. But having that one-on-one eye contact with the person is extremely important in an interview process. And if it's a panel interview, that's actually an art form, right? To be able to give everybody the attention during that conversation. So as you're having one-on-one conversation with multiple people, being able to do that shows to me actually your ability to handle multiple. That's where I would say, oh, this person can multitask. You on your cell phone during driving is not multitasking. This one is multitasking for me, where you can have multiple conversations, be coherent in a larger setting.
I love the comparison that you just gave. Yeah, driving and typing is worse than I forgot the exact number, but it's worse than actually drinking and driving. It equates to some point. Okay, cool. So I'll have just a couple of more questions, and then I'll let you go back to your busy day. So you had mentors from your story. That was your aunt and that was your father. And probably during your professional life, you had some mentors. So how important is mentorship, and how can a young person who's joining the industry actually go up to their colleague or manager and say, oh, I would like you to mentor me?
Absolutely. Amazing. Great question. So mentorship is, in my mind, is a person that you either have admiration for, or you feel can guide you in the right direction, is a sponsor for a lot that you want to achieve in the future. Mentorship is a very personal relationship rather than just a professional relationship. And personal in the sense where you are entrusting the mentor to make recommendations to you for your future career, for you to become a better person. And I think that's how I see my role as a mentor. I've done this for multiple people, during my career. But more importantly, I've had multiple mentors in my career. And it's okay for you to change mentors as you progress in your career. And it's not because the current mentor is not able to guide you any further or whatnot, but different stages of life require different motivation for you to move forward and be out of your comfort zone. So I always look at mentorship as this is someone who could be in your family. It could be in your professional network. It could be in your educational network. It could be just in your general network that you met somebody in a social setting. But it's somebody who inspires you. It's somebody who looks at your situation and gives you the true feedback, good or bad, and is not giving you good news all the time, right? A mentor will challenge you. A mentor will tell you when you've done something or when you're about to make a wrong decision in terms of your career, and will give you their opinion, but still let you make that decision, right? They're not there to make the decision for you. They're there to kind of create that list of what's the positive, what's the negative in the situation, and then let you decide. So I think that's how I see the mentorship as a relationship. I think it is imperative. Everybody should have a mentor throughout their career, and there will be times when you won't have anybody that's inspiring you or that's challenging you, and that's okay. But you should strive to find that person, and if it's not through this one-on-one conversation like you and I are having, it could be books, it could be audiobooks, it could be a podcast that you listen to, it could be a figurehead in an organization that you really look up to, and it's okay to follow them and follow their principles, but more importantly, take that, not just listening, but actively listening and incorporating into your daily life. That's more important.
Wow, thank you so much. So now I have a question for you on the employer side. How difficult is it to hire high quality people nowadays? And then how important is defining a job description with all the requirements and all the tasks and duties, in your opinion? If you don't do it, does it lead to a disconnect between my expectation as an employee and your expectations as a manager?
100%. Great question. So I'll answer the second part of the question first. Yes, it does. If your experience coming into the organization is not an experience you were anticipating, chances are that we've lost you in the first 2 to 3 weeks, and that is going to cost us as an employer down the road, because you're just not going to be able to provide or be productive in that environment, right? We've lost that. It's almost like when you check into a hotel. If your arrival experience is bad, chances are that there'll be other red flags during the stay. But if we've had your arrival experience be fantastic, you'll have a better experience, into the organization. So going back to your first part of the question, finding talent, is it hard? Yes. The reason is not because there's no talent out there. I think the reason is twofold. Number one, I think companies are getting better in retaining their talent, right? Because they're able to recognize how important it is that you keep the intellectual property within your organization. So that's number one. Number two, I think the competition is extremely high. There are so many amazing people that are in the workplace today, and each of them bring a unique set of skills with them. I think the marriage between the job description and the team member, yes, it's important, but what I see is I hire based on a person's personality and not their skills, because I think skills can be taught. Changing someone's personalities is a different ballgame, right? And in the hospitality industry, if I'm trying to change someone's personality to be more hospitable, to be more accommodating, to be more empathetic, it's going to take a long time. And I'm not sure that that's even possible sometimes, right? So I think if you have the right personality and you have the right approach towards learning, skills can be taught. I'm not worried about that. And by the way, you could have experience from the best company in the world. So let's take an example. You work for Apple, or you work for Google or one of the big tech firms, and you're going to a small startup. You could go in with the assumption that I worked for the best company in the world. I'm fit for this. I have to tell you, you're not. Right? It's a completely different skill set. If you're going to a startup, you're going for more entrepreneurial skills than anything else. It's the same thing with hospitality. You might have worked for the largest chain or the most complex hotel or the most beautiful hotel in the world, but if the skill set doesn't match this particular property, then unfortunately it might not be a right fit. So it's okay for you not to be a particular fit in certain organizations, but know that there are hundreds and hundreds of hotels out there that you will be an amazing fit to as well, right? So the chances of you fitting in are higher than not fitting in. I want to be clear about that.
Wow, that's very encouraging, I must say. Thank you so much. So one last question is, what would be your one piece of advice for someone who is out there to start a hospitality career or wants to advance in their career?
I've always worked with a certain set of philosophy in my work. I always look at things from a perspective of before I start a project or a new job or whatever the case may be, is I have to have a balanced approach between people, product, and process. And as a GM, if I'm investing in the right people, making sure the product is in line with what our customers are looking for and investing in that and creating the right process management, then I'm setting the hotel or the organization up for success in terms of then graduating to the next level of people, product, and performance-driven organization. Once you've done that for a sustained period of time, you can then go to the final stage, which is people, product, and purpose-driven organization, right? So my advice to people is, number one, what is your purpose, right? Identify your purpose and then work towards it. And in order to work towards it, you will have to have certain processes in your life that you'll have to change, right? You will have to have a very maniacal approach to your own performance. And if you're not, performing, I have to be honest with you, life's not charity. You're not going to see results. So in order to get to your purpose, you have to have the right process, which in this case would be making sure that your resume, your cover letter, your mentor, your educational, guidance counselor, or your current boss, supervisor, whoever it is, that you've got all those people invested in your success and you're working towards them. So that would be kind of your process. And then, performance will be, if you're an educational institute, what are you doing to excel? If you're in a professional setting, what are you doing to excel and show your performance? And performance sometimes can be literally, a matter of 1% more than you were doing yesterday. It's not this, you have to be the team member of the month every single month. That's not the case, right? So you have to decide what that performance enhancement is. And it should work towards your, higher goal of your purpose. And what do you want to be? And that purpose could be anything from, I want to be a GM, to I want to own a hotel, to, I want to be a director of food and beverage, front office, sales and market. It could be whatever. Or it could be, I want to have my own Airbnb in New Zealand. Whatever the case is. If you have your purpose set, at least, then you're working towards it. And by the way, that purpose will change over time. As you grow older, as you, your life situation changes, it's okay for that purpose to change. I'm sitting here talking to you today. 20 years back, 25 years back, I thought I'd be a pilot somewhere. And look where I am, right? So it changes and it's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Dadich. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I believe that our audience is going to learn so much from you.
Thank you so much.